Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our insightful viewers, Jack William. Thanks for the suggestion, Jack. You asked, why are barns red? If you've ever driven through the countryside and noticed that barns are almost always painted red, you might have wondered, what's the deal with that? Is it a fashion statement or just a coincidence? Well, buckle up, because today we're unraveling the surprising history, science, and even a bit of folklore behind this iconic color choice. So, if you've ever been curious about why barns stand out in bold red hues, or just want a great conversation starter for your next trivia night, stick around. We're about to dig into the story behind red barns, right here on Explaining Everything. First things first, let's address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the cow in the barn. Why red? Why not green to blend in with the fields? Or blue for that serene sky vibe? The answer takes us back to a time before Home Depot existed. Back in the day, like way back, farmers weren't exactly rolling in cash. They had to work with what they had. Fancy paint stores? Not a thing. Instead, they made their own paint, and it wasn't the kind of high-gloss, trendy stuff you slap on a feature wall. Farmers mixed up a concoction called milk paint, made from milk, lime, and pigment. It sounds like the worst smoothie ever, but hey, it worked. Lime helped it stick to wood and made it last longer. But here's where it gets interesting. Farmers started adding rust. Yes, actual rust. Why? Rust, or ferric oxide if you're feeling fancy, is cheap and plentiful. Plus, it's a natural fungicide, so it helped protect the wood from mold and other nasties. So, barns weren't red because farmers wanted a pop of color. They were red because rust gave the paint that warm, reddish hue. Practical and resourceful, right? Honestly, if farmers had been adding blueberries instead of rust, we'd probably have blue barns today. Can you imagine? But let's not skip over the science. Rust didn't just make the barns red, it made them durable. Wood and weather don't exactly get along. Rain, snow, humidity. It's a disaster waiting to happen. The rust-infused paint acted like armor for the wood, keeping the elements at bay. Think of it like SPF for your barn. No rust, no protection. And since barns house animals and tools, aka the lifeblood of the farm, it made sense to go all out on the protection front. Now, some of you might be wondering, okay, but why stick with red after actual paint became a thing? Couldn't we upgrade to taupe or millennial pink? Excellent question, my stylish friend. The short answer, tradition. The long answer, marketing. By the 19th century, mass-produced red paint became super cheap, thanks to, you guessed it, rust-based pigments. Red paint was so affordable, it was practically begging to be slathered on barns. And let's not forget the psychological aspect. Red is bold. It stands out against green fields and blue skies, making it easy to spot from a distance. Farmers might not have been thinking about curb appeal, but they were definitely thinking about functionality. Speaking of visibility, there's another fun theory floating around. Some folks believe barns were painted red because it made them easier for cows to find. That's right, cow GPS. Now, while cows can see red, they have dichromatic vision, meaning they see a limited color range. It's not like they're out there rating barns on their vibrancy. Their vision is more about contrasts than specific colors. So while the red might catch their eye a little, they're probably just heading toward the food. Let's not give cows too much credit for being art critics. And let's not ignore the symbolic side of things. In many cultures, red is the color of energy, passion, and vitality. While I'm not suggesting farmers were getting philosophical about their paint choices, there's something poetic about red barns representing the heart of a farm. They're like the warm, beating core of rural life. Now, here's where it gets really fun. Did you know not all barns are red? Shocking, I know. In some areas, barns are painted white, black, or even blue. But red barns became iconic, especially in the US and parts of Europe. They're like the countryside's version of the Hollywood sign, instantly recognizable. And let's not forget the cultural impact. Red barns have become shorthand for farm life in movies, books, and even emojis. Seriously, if you see a red barn emoji, your brain immediately goes, farm! It's the power of association. Imagine if barns were all beige. That'd be a branding nightmare. Beige barns scream, I'm here, but I'm not trying to impress anyone. So, there you have it. Barns are red because of rust, practicality, and a hefty dose of tradition. What started as a resourceful hack turned into an iconic symbol of farming. And while other colors might have their moments, red barns will always be the MVP of rural aesthetics. The next time you drive past one, give it a little nod of appreciation. That red paint isn't just a splash of color, it's a badge of history, ingenuity, and a touch of chemistry. Plus, it's a great conversation starter. Seriously, bring it up at your next dinner party. Did you know barns are red because of rust? Boom! Instant intellectual. So, the moral of the story. Farmers were the original DIYers. Rust is surprisingly useful, and red barns are way cooler than you thought. Now, go out there and share your newfound barn knowledge with the world, or at least impress a cow or two. And that's the story of why barns are red. If you enjoyed this dive into barn history, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more stories behind everyday mysteries. And if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.